Didn't fight back. I didn't raise my voice. I just picked up my phone, made one call, and walked out of that restaurant like I had somewhere better to be. Because I did. Let me back up. My brother's name is Kevin. He's 34, 2 years older than me, and for most of our lives, he was my favorite person in the world. We grew up in a small house outside Columbus, Ohio, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knows your business and nobody locks their front door. Our parents divorced when I was 9. Mom worked double shifts at a nursing home. Kevin was the one who walked me to the bus stop, who taught me to ride a bike in the Walmart parking lot on Sunday mornings, who sat outside the bathroom door when I had panic attacks in high school and talked to me through the gap under the door until I could breathe again. I held on to that version of him for a long time, probably too long. When I was 26, I got a job offer in Chicago. A real one, junior analyst at a logistics firm, $58,000 a year, benefits, the whole thing. Kevin was between jobs at the time. He'd been between jobs, on and off, for about 3 years. He had a girlfriend named April, who I genuinely liked, a studio apartment with a broken dishwasher, and a habit of calling me at 11 p.m. to vent about how the world wasn't giving him a fair shot. The month before I was supposed to move, he called me crying. April was pregnant. They needed first and last month's rent on a 2-bedroom. He didn't have it. Their landlord wouldn't wait. I had $22,000 in savings, money I'd been putting away since my first real job at 23. Emergency fund, moving fund, the beginning of something that was supposed to be mine. I gave him $9,000, not a loan. He said the word loan, but I think I always knew, that it wasn't going to come back to me. I told myself it didn't matter. He was my brother. The baby was coming. Mom was proud of me for stepping up. My aunt called and said I was just like my grandfather, who'd given his last $50 to a friend during the recession and never looked back. I told myself that story for 4 years. I moved to Chicago. I built a life there, not glamorous, but real. A 1-bedroom in Pilsen, a cat named Biscuit, a promotion at Sardi that brought my salary to $74,000. I made friends. I dated someone for almost 2 years. I started going to therapy on Tuesday evenings, which is where I first heard the phrase, family of origin patterns, and sat with it uncomfortably for about 6 weeks before I admitted it applied to me. Kevin and April had their son Marcus. Cute kid. I flew back for Christmas every year, brought presents, helped with dishes, smiled through dinners where my mom would talk about Kevin's big plans like they were already done. A food truck, a contracting business, a drop shipping thing he'd read about online. None of them ever quite launched. In the meantime, April's parents helped them buy a house in a suburb called Gahanna. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, a 2-car garage. I was happy for them. I sent them a housewarming gift, a nice one, because I wanted to be the kind of person who was happy for people. Then April's parents asked Kevin to repay a $15,000 loan they'd given him 2 years before. He called me the night he got the letter. I can't lose this house, he said. Marcus just started at his school. April's already stressed. If her parents put a lien on the place, it's over. Kevin, you have savings. You've always been so responsible. I just need 6 months. I was 31. I had $38,000 saved by then. I'd worked 4 overtime stretches to get there. I had a therapist who had spent 6 months carefully helping me understand that love and self-erasure are not the same thing. I said no. He cried. Then he got quiet in a way that was worse than crying. Then he said, I just thought you'd want to help your family. I flew home for Christmas that year anyway, because Marcus was 4 and I wasn't going to let my feelings about Kevin become my feelings about that kid. Dinner was fine. Stiff, but fine. Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen and said she was sure Kevin would figure it out. She said it in a tone that made clear she thought I should help him figure it out. I loaded the dishwasher and let it go. The following spring, Kevin and April announced they were renewing their vows. They'd only been married 6 years, but April had always wanted a bigger celebration. They'd eloped because of money, and she'd never quite let go of the dream wedding she'd imagined. Kevin called it a vow renewal, but the planning document April sent to the family group chat looked like a full wedding. A venue in downtown Columbus, a caterer, a florist, a DJ, a photographer, a videographer, a 4-tier cake, guest list of 80 people, estimated cost $34,000. Kevin had a new job by then, warehouse supervisor, decent pay. April worked part-time as a dental hygienist. They weren't broke, but they weren't $34,000 party rich either, and April's parents had made clear they were done subsidizing Kevin's life. My mom contributed $2,000, which was genuinely everything she could spare. April's parents gave it $1,500 and considered themselves finished. Kevin called me. "I know things have been weird between us," he said, "but this would mean everything to April. She deserves this. And I want to do right by her." I heard myself saying I'd think about it. I don't know why. Old habit maybe. The 9-year-old part of me that still remembered him sitting outside that bathroom door. I talked to my therapist about it. She didn't tell me what to do. She asked me what I was afraid would happen if I said no. I said I was afraid Kevin would hate me. She asked if Kevin's opinion of me was currently something I had any control over. I sat with that for a long time. I called Kevin back and told him I'd help with the venue. Not all of it. The venue deposit was $8,500, and I'd cover that, and I'd cover one other vendor of his choice, not to exceed $4,000. Total from me, no more than $12,500. I told him I needed to be named in the contract as the payer of record on those line items because I'd learned the hard way what happened when you handed money to someone without paper behind it. He agreed. April called me, grateful and warm. She sent me fabric swatches for the centerpieces. I flew home for the venue walkthrough, stood in a pretty room in a historic building near the short north and thought, okay, this is something I can do. This is the line. I had one condition. I said it once, clearly. My daughter. I have a daughter, Lily. She's 7 now. She was 5 then, was coming with me to the ceremony. She's the light of my life. She'd met Kevin and April a dozen times. Marcus loved playing with her. There was no reason she wouldn't be welcome. Kevin said, of course, obviously. I didn't think about it again. The day of the ceremony, I got Lily dressed in a pink dress she'd picked herself. We drove to the venue, a 20-minute drive from my mom's place where we were staying. It was a warm Saturday in May, the kind of day that makes Columbus feel worth all the gray winters. We pulled up. I saw the venue coordinator I'd met at the walkthrough standing outside with a clipboard. I waved. She gave me a complicated look. There was a man at the door I didn't recognize. Security, not a venue employee. I could tell because he wasn't wearing their uniform. He was wearing a dark jacket, holding a manila envelope. He asked my name. I gave it. He opened the envelope and pulled out a laminated sheet of paper. He held it up. There were photos on it, 2 photos, both of my daughter. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said. "I have instructions that these individuals are not permitted on the premises today. There are concerns about disruption." I stared at the photos of my 5-year-old. Someone had printed them from my Instagram, I realized, because I recognized the shots, and laminated them into a document. Like she was a threat. Like she was someone who needed to be officially excluded with paperwork and a higher guard. Disruption, I repeated. That's what I was told. I looked at Lily. She was holding her little purse, the one with the strawberry on it. She was looking at the pictures of herself with the confused expression kids get when they don't understand something, but they can feel that it's bad. I took her hand. "Okay," I said to the security guard. "We're leaving." He looked almost relieved. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. "You're just doing your job." We walked back to the car. I buckled Lily in. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, hands on the wheel, and I let myself feel the full weight of what had just happened. Someone, Kevin, April, one of them, had sat down and printed photos of my daughter, had made a document, had hired a man to stand at a door and hold up her face and say, "Not welcome here." I called the venue's main office line from the parking lot. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I explained that I was the payer of record on the venue contract, that I was sitting in the parking lot and would like to speak to the events manager about how the space I had contracted was currently being used. The events manager came to the phone within 4 minutes. Her name was Susan, and she was professional and slightly alarmed. I explained what had just happened. I told her that the security individual at the door was not a venue employee and had not been disclosed to me when I signed the contract. I told her I had a copy of the contract on my phone and that it included a clause about authorized use of the space by the contracting party. Susan put me on hold. I sat in that parking lot with the windows down while Lily ate a granola bar from my bag and asked me if we were going to the party. "Not today, baby," I said. "How come?" "Because we have better things to do." Susan came back on the line and told me she needed to speak with her manager and could she call me back in 10 minutes. I said absolutely. Lily and I drove to a diner 2 miles away. We got pancakes. She got hot chocolate with whipped cream. I got coffee, black, and I sat across from my daughter and watched her draw faces in the whipped cream with a spoon, and I thought about Kevin sitting outside that bathroom door when I was 15. I thought about the Walmart parking lot. I thought about all the ways love can calcify into something else if you let it. My phone rang. Not Susan. "Kevin." "Where are you?" he said. His voice was tight. "Having pancakes with my daughter. The venue is saying you called them." "I did. What did you say to them?" "I asked about my contract." There was a pause. "Then April wanted a private event. She was worried about Kevin." I kept my voice very even. "You printed photos of my daughter and hired someone to hold them up at a door." Silence. "She's 5 years old," I said. "What were you worried she was going to disrupt?" "April's been stressed. I don't care how stressed April's been. It came out clean and quiet, and I meant every word of it. I covered your venue so she could have her dream celebration. I asked for one thing, and you printed photos of my kid." He started saying something about family and tension and April's feelings, and I just stopped listening, not in an angry way, in the way where you finally put something down that was too heavy and you feel the absence of the weight and you know you're not going to pick it up again. "I'm going to call the venue back," I said. "Have a good day, Kevin." I hung up. I called Susan. "I want to be clear about something. I'm not a vindictive person. I don't enjoy chaos. I didn't do what I did next because I wanted to blow up anyone's life. I did it because a contract is a contract, and because I had paid $8,500 for a venue space that was being used in a way that excluded me and my daughter without my knowledge or consent, and because somewhere in the last 6 years of giving and giving and giving, I had finally, quietly, gotten tired. I told Susan that I was formally withdrawing my financial authorization for the event. I explained that as the payer of record, I had rights under the contract terms that I had reviewed and that I was exercising them. I told her I was not requesting a refund. I understood their cancellation policy, but that I was withdrawing my name as the responsible party for the venue space effective immediately, which meant that if the event was to continue, Kevin and April would need to present a new payment arrangement within the hour. Susan was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I understand. I'll need to speak with the event hosts." I said, "Of course." I paid for the pancakes. I took Lily to the park near my mom's house. I pushed her on the swings and she laughed, and it was the best 30 minutes of that whole trip. Kevin called 7 more times. I let them all go to voicemail. April called twice. My mom called once, and that one I answered. "What is happening?" she said. "Kevin says you're trying to ruin their day." "I'm at the park with Lily," I said. "We're on the swings." "He says you called the venue, Mom." I took a breath. "Did he tell you about the photos?" Silence. Someone printed pictures of Lily and gave them to a security guard with instructions to keep her out of the building. "Your granddaughter." Because April was, quote, worried about disruption. My mom made a sound I hadn't heard from her in a long time. Low and sharp and involuntary. "I need you to know," I said, "that I'm not trying to hurt anyone. But I'm also not going to pretend that's okay." She didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, "I didn't know about the photos." "I figured," I said. I'll talk to him. She did. I don't know exactly what she said, but Kevin called me that evening from my mom's driveway, and this time I answered. The venue canceled, he said. His voice was flat and empty. They refunded the other vendors because of the contract termination. I didn't say I was sorry. I wasn't. April's devastated, he said. I know. You really couldn't just let it go? For one day? Kevin? I kept my voice level. You printed photos of my daughter? He exhaled. Long and ragged. I didn't know she did that, he said finally. The photos? That was April. She didn't tell me she'd done that until this morning. I thought it was just a general guest list change. I didn't know she'd. He stopped. I didn't know. I let that sit in the air between us. Okay, I said. That's all you're going to say? What do you want me to say, Kevin? He didn't answer. We didn't speak for 3 months after that. Not out of spite, just because neither of us called and neither of us reached out. And the silence grew into its own shape. My mom checked in on me every week. She never asked me to apologize. I think she understood something that summer that she'd been circling around for a long time. In the fall, Kevin texted me a photo of Marcus at his first soccer game. Just the photo. No caption. I texted back, he looks great, and that was it. That was the beginning of something new between us. Smaller, quieter, built on less pretending. We're not close the way we used to be. I don't think we'll ever be close that way again. But I don't grieve it the way I thought I would. Some things you hold on to past the point when they're real. Some things you love in the form they used to be, not the form they've become. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself, for the other person, for the kid in the pink dress who deserves a mother who knows what she's worth, is to stop carrying something that was never really yours to carry. Lily asked me about it once, a few months later. We were driving home from school, and she said out of nowhere, Mom, why did those people have pictures of me? I kept my eyes on the road. Because they made a mistake, I said. What kind of mistake? They forgot, I said, that I was the one who showed up. She thought about that for a second. Then she said, oh, and went back to looking out the window. And I drove us home. I keep thinking about the granola bar. Lily ate it in the back seat while I sat in that parking lot with my hands on the steering wheel, not moving, just breathing. She didn't ask questions. She just chewed and looked out the window, and I thought, she's going to be okay. She doesn't know yet what just happened. Not really, but she's going to be okay because I didn't fall apart in front of her. That matters. It might be the only thing I did right that whole day. And it was enough. I used to think being a good person meant absorbing whatever came at you without complaint. That generosity was measured in how much you could give before you broke. My whole family ran on that logic. The more you sacrificed without flinching, the more you loved them. I gave Kevin $9,000 when I was 26 and told myself it was kindness. I covered that venue and smiled through the planning calls and told myself it was healing. What it actually was both times was me choosing their comfort over my own clarity. That's not virtue, that's just fear dressed up nicely. The thing about Kevin printing those photos, it clarified something I'd been refusing to see. He didn't do it. April did. And when he found out, he didn't call me to apologize first. He called me to ask what I'd said to the venue. That told me everything about where I stood in his order of priorities, and I think some part of me had known it for years. I just kept rewriting the story so I could stay in it. What I did in that parking lot wasn't revenge. I want to be clear about that. I exercised a right I'd had all along. I just hadn't needed to use it before. The contract was in my name because I'd learned, slowly and painfully, that trust without documentation is just hope. That's not cynicism. That's intelligence. It's the kind of thing you figure out not from a book but from the specific experience of handing money to someone you love and watching it disappear without a paper trail. And then there's Lily. She's 7 now. She doesn't remember that day in much detail. She remembers the pancakes and the park, which is exactly how I wanted it. But I remember standing at that door, watching a stranger hold up her photograph like she was a liability to be managed. And I remember the feeling that came over me. Not rage, clarity. The kind that only comes when something crosses a line so obvious that all your old excuses just stop working. You don't build that kind of backbone overnight. You build it by being honest with yourself about what's happening, even when honesty is uncomfortable, by asking hard questions in therapy and sitting with the answers instead of deflecting, by making one small right choice, then another, until the muscle is strong enough to hold when it really counts. I still think about the kid Kevin used to be, the one who sat outside the bathroom door. I don't think that person disappeared. I think he got tired and scared and started making choices that buried him. That's a sadness I carry, but it's not my debt to pay. What I owe is to Lily, to the version of myself that finally stopped pretending a one-sided relationship was the same as family, to the quiet, ordinary morning we had at that diner. Pancakes, hot chocolate, whipped cream shaped like a face, while the rest of it sorted itself out without me. She asked me later why those people had pictures of her. I told her they made a mistake, that they forgot I was the one who showed up. I hope she remembers that part.